Hello everybody, welcome to Scar Tissue. It's Saturday out here today in Punta de Mita, Mexico, so it's happy surfing Saturday. And the reason I say surfing, we have a special guest today, 2018 World Stand-Up Paddle Champion, Sean Poynter. Just to take 2 seconds here and say, Sean, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Well, thanks for having me on again.
Yeah.
It has been an awesome week.
Yeah,
Had a really
this has been a great week.
Really special time.
Yeah.
The veterans here have just been outstanding, and everyone's got out there and made a great go at the waves. So
yeah, really
happy coach over here to see all the performances and the laughter and the camaraderie. Oh my gosh, it's been a hell of a week. So much fun. So wonderful, wonderful organization. We're awesome and stoked to be partnering with you guys. Yeah, backing it up for me, many would say it's strange that I found the water as I did, because I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio. And I didn't even know surfing at all when I moved down to Florida. But backing up into Cincinnati, I was a big soccer player, loved soccer. I was a big competitor there, played on the Classics up there, which is a really prestigious traveling Cincinnati team. Sponsored by Coca-Cola, the team was, and we traveled around and competed against the top amateurs in the States and whatnot, clubs and what have you. And I was a swimmer up there, so I did know swimming and ocean water a little bit. And I was actually pretty good in the swimming side of things.
What stroke did you do?
I did freestyle. I did breaststroke, primarily the freestyle and actually butterfly. So it was funny when I went back, and I still visit Cincinnati, but when I went back probably 5 years ago, and it was 10 years after the fact, or maybe longer, that I was competing there. My record still held for the 25 freestyle.
Nice.
Like 10 years later. It was at the very bottom of the top 10 fastest laps at this age, but it was still there many years later.
That's awesome.
My friends pointed out to me, like, you're still on the record board. We transitioned down to Florida that was in 90. I was born in 89. We moved down in 99 to Florida. My father got a job down there. We transitioned the whole family, all 6 of us, down to Fernandina Beach, which is a little city municipality on Amelia Island. It's in the very northeast of Florida. It's the most southern sea island that exists in the chain. Really small 12-mile by 2-mile island. Not a whole lot of surf that goes on there, as you can imagine. I call it actually the armpit of the East Coast, because it's the most westerly point on the East Coast, and swell just hits north or south of the region because of that. So I've been told before, maybe on average we have about 10 days a month that are actual rideable waves, meaning it could be 1 foot, 2 foot. That's our rideable wave.
Knee high and rideable, I also used to call it.
Knee high and rideable. Yeah. So we moved down though, and I was introduced to surfing through the community there. And it was actually part of my dad's deal when we moved down, that he would buy us surfboards if we moved with him. Like we had a choice. I'll buy you surfboards if you move with me, right? So that was the deal. We got down there and got us surfboards. We got on the water.
Yeah,
I was 10 years old.
10 years old, okay.
10 years old. And we got on the water. My brothers, I have older brothers. I'm the youngest of 4. I have 2 older brothers and an eldest sister. And my older brothers got their boards before me, and I just wanted to be like them. So I was trying to surf, and eventually got my board, and I just fell in love with it. And the soccer ball got replaced by the surfboard. And I think you probably heard me tell a story earlier that I was so in love with it, I would be sleeping with my surfboard in my bed, underneath my covers, so I could get out before school started. Yeah. I just loved it. And then one thing led to the next. I met some really great friends through it, and I had this new attachment towards the ocean, and seeing this beauty, natural living landscape that I could interface with on my own and not have a team to play with. And it was just this very individual activity that I could do and embark on and push myself and challenge myself and progress. And there was something really attractive about that I just fell in love with. And one thing led to the next. Got into sponsorship and carried out my my dreams of working towards being a professional surfer. Yeah. And that's where I got the sponsors.
When did you get your first sponsor?
Got my first sponsor when I was 11. That was with the local surf shop there, Driftwood Surf Shop.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yep. And then I reached my dream sponsor at 13, Volcom. It was an international clothing brand that's picked me up as a East Coast rider and started traveling with them. And yeah, kind of led from there. So at 14, started traveling with them, going to California to spend summers out there to evolve my surfing, get into bigger surf in the Pacific Ocean, and travel to areas in the Caribbeans and Central America, different countries for competitions and magazine shoots and stuff like this.
Yep.
Just kind of pushing myself, getting around better surfers and getting around more challenging waves so that I could push my surfing ability to be better.
Right. So, kind of for the audience that are non-surfers, describe some of the challenges of being an East Coast surfer, not only just the waves that are available and the non-availability is probably a better way to describe it, to maybe some of the obstacles you meet with West Coast surfers, Hawaiian surfers, any of the other ones, that how they look at you just right off the bat.
Sure. Yeah. It's always been a thing that East Coast surfers just don't get the love that anywhere else does. It's just, in the U.S., if you're a U.S. surfer, you're going to get relegated to like third string out of the gates just because of your location. It would go maybe Hawaii as number one, California, and then East Coast. And so there was a challenge that if you're an East Coast surfer, you're faced up against that out of the gates. It's a big thing not being close to where the industry is in Southern California.
Yep.
It's like out of sight, out of mind. And that was very much the case for guys like myself on the East Coast who are good, but we're not in front of their team riders, not in front of the company owners that would get the nod. So that was one thing. And then, of course, the waves, we just didn't have the surf. But, one thing that I'd actually think of it as a positive is that when we did get surf, we were so hungry for getting out there and making the most of it. And it said that if you can surf well in bad waves, then you can surf well in good waves. And that's a testament, I think, to every East Coaster. I mean, I don't think there's a...
well, Kelly Slater is Exhibit A.
Kelly Slater is Exhibit A. I mean, he's an 11-time world champion coming from Cocoa Beach, Florida. And he would say to himself that Cocoa Beach, there's not a better place to learn surfing than in Cocoa Beach, than in Florida. It's just then stepping it to the next level where you have to get somewhere else. But, that was the challenge out of the gate, the location, not getting that support and visibility from sponsors, and then the waves. But again, I think there was also a benefit to it because we got hungry. We understood how to make bad waves work for us. And then when we got into the good surf, it was like, this is easy, right? We can be, damn, I didn't realize I was that good. Like, you get in good waves, you get better, right? You get in bad waves, if you're not good, well, you get really bad. So that was one thing that we were pitted up against.
Yeah. So with that, and just for the audience, reason I really liked having Sean on here, he's a great example of we all know those young sports heroes, right? Competitive sports is primarily a young man's game, other than people like Tom Brady, the outliers. So what you always see in society is where these young, talented people peak in their late 20s, just because that's the nature of the beast. And to make that transition to, from military guy to civilian life, or in Sean's case, back to, we called it the other night adulting, right? That was to say, hey, you got an adult now. You're past it. You're past that pinnacle. Right. So let's kind of take a step back and take a look at, as a little grommet at 10, 11 years old, up till now, as you're getting ready to go into or have gone into real estate as new business. What's your internal combustion? What drives you? What drove you, and what separated you for people to look at, hey, Sean Poynter, I'm going to sponsor you as an 11-year-old kid or a 13-year-old kid, up to to 2018 World Championship. What drove you then, and how does that carry over into your current business?
Well, I think I've always had this internal drive, and maybe that's been fueled by the examples of my parents. With my father, he being almost I would say a Renaissance man, doing everything and anything under the sun to bring in a paycheck. A really bright guy. I mean, we moved down to Florida. He was a toy inventor at the time. He's been a builder, a painter. He's been top salesman in pharmaceutical sales. He's done everything. He's done so many things. He's a restaurateur now with him and my mom, owning multiple restaurants. So, there's a saying that he had is make it happen. And I think I identify with that. And it's something that I just have taken on. And I don't know if it was something that I through watching them live so passionately and making things happen, that it just filtered over into my own person and into my DNA. But, I just had this, and my mom would say it, like when we moved down to Florida, because the whole conversation came up with college and this whole thing. And they were like, we didn't want to bring it up to you because it wasn't even a question. Like, you were going surfing, like there was never school in mind. And we just thought, well, Sean's just doing his thing, he has direction and he knows what he wants to do. And we just let him do his thing. So there's a couple things there that I probably would say aid to being a grommet and then achieving, world champion status. Mm-hmm. It was some examples really great examples that I had in my life. And even outside of my parents, but the community around me that helped to lift me up and prop me up and encourage me, the elders, if you will, in the surf community that kind of look over me and help me and push me. And then just that initial love. And
anybody else out there you want to identify as maybe the person that really stood out? Yeah,
well, I mean, my first sponsor, Driftwood Surf Shop, mm-hmm. Peter Parkin, is someone that I give a big nod to in terms of getting me out there at different waves. I mean, he's the reason why I got my dream sponsor and why I am here, if you really want to take it back, because of that sponsorship, because of that relationship that I had with him, and that he helped me to reach higher heights and get the outside companies to look at me, because it wasn't the case. I come from this small island. Yeah. As much as we were on the East Coast relegated to the third string, I was even that much more fifth string, because I was on this small little island that people only thought fishing happened there, right? People were like, you surf? So I thought there's only fishermen up there. So a combination of things that answers the question. An example, some stewardship from mentors and support, and just the innate wanting to make it happen.
I have a question for you too. I mean, what I like about we've talked about your instructor styles, like Daniel's, he's more of the soul, I call it, of how to instruct people. And you get into, we call you the tactician.
Cool.
Right? Yeah, from a SEAL team perspective, right? And I originally attributed it to being under the tutelage of Ian, but were you always a tactician from a young grommet up? Where did that come from?
And of course, not to mention Ian Cans, of course. He's a major component to my success. I mean, we started our relationship in 2012. So there's been a couple really marquee individuals in my lineage of my success in surfing. Yeah. Peter being at the beginning with Driftwood, and then there's relationships in Volcom, and then when I got into stand-up, Ian was a massive culprit too. I would say in inspiring and encouraging the tactician in me. Ian I've worked with a couple coaches and been around and watched videos and understand different professionals out there and their coaching styles. And when I started coaching with Ian, I just went, you understand so intimately and in such a matter-of-fact way that how can there be anybody better? Like, what you're saying here, 1 + 1 does equal 2. Mm-hmm. Like,
give a good example of how you guys collaborated into when you go into a competition. I've got this for the audience's understanding, so they can see what the work that goes into that kind of endeavor. So go to a competition. So maybe the 2018 World Championship.
Sure. We can take it to New York.
Yeah.
We can take it to New York, 2018, up in Long Beach.
Yeah.
We were over there, Ian and I. He was, we get there several days early, really like a week early. Start training about 4 days prior to the event start, earlier than really anybody, and start breaking down the actual wave, because there's a formality there. As much as the ocean is just uncontrollable, spontaneous movement of water and waves, there are, if you look closely enough and you understand well enough of the bottom of the ocean and the jetties and stuff like this, there are consistencies to it. And that is what we start to then go identify when we get there early. Okay, where are we competing at? Let's go and hone in on this break. Let's identify what waves we're going to be surfing, strategizing, almost like choreographing our ability, choreographing what we're going to be doing in the different waves that we identify at the different tides from high to low, because there's different waves in that setting from high to low, as you know.
Yep.
And choreographing what type of surfing we're going to be doing and how to maximize riding on this wave to then position ourselves to catch this wave. So to utilize this whole movement in the ocean within our competing confines and make the most of it. And then also, dialing in our equipment and making sure, hey, is this fin setup working? Is this the right board to use because you're not coming up quick enough? I think we can do this and this. So it's kind of like fine tuning and adjusting and then fine tuning again. And then it comes into the mental state, prepping up for just being physically, mentally in place. And that's one thing that Ian he helps me to do that, to stay focused. And he's a reminder that we're here to do business and we're here to stay on target.
What does he do? What's some techniques he uses to keep you focused?
I mean, really simply just him being there for one, but also in terms of just getting me in the zone, reminding me in the morning what we're here to do, reminding me at the end of the day, at the end of the heat, you did great. This is what we can do better. Keeping me in the game, because there's so much going on in these environments where there's distractions and parties and you could say girls or what have you. Having someone there to remind you of what the focus is so that you have this accountability partner, if you will, to also then step your game up, it lends such a massive hand to success. And that has been the case since working with Ian since 2012. We've racked up a couple gold medals. We've racked up a world title, national championships, individual wins throughout all over. So, I learned a lot from him, and a lot of the tactician-like style that you guys see in me comes from him.
Yeah.
And I'm super grateful for it, because there's more even outside the water that I learned from that and that I apply into my life.
Yeah, so just for the audience, the first retreat with Sean back in 2019, I felt like I wasn't even in preschool getting out in the water with him. And he'd be like, hey, so get over there, get over there, get over there, get over there. And sure enough, obviously everything he told you to do was exactly right. So I just, from now I got this opportunity, I just wanted to thank you for getting me into that position too, to where I'm, 57 years of age, not doing too bad. So we're going to switch over now to a category I call Phoenix. So, we all had moments in our life where you hit rock bottom, or you feel like you've hit rock bottom anyway. Sure. I know one thing we shared a little bit of, maybe, and I'll let you pick which one or two you wanted to take a look at. I remember you were talking about a 5-year plan for World Championship that actually took you 8. Maybe you want to talk about that, or you want to talk about the shift over from your pinnacle at the championship, now going down to starting a new business and coming out of that. I'll let you pick all of the above, or one when you want to kind of focus on.
Yeah, I'll just start. I'll touch on in 2012. I feel like there was a rock bottom for me in some sense, even though I just had gotten started. I gotta say just had gotten started, because I started full time in 2011. In 2012, I was like the closest that I had been. Granted, it was only 2 years. Closest I had been to winning the title. I was coming into the last event in Cane Garden Bay down in BVI's, and I was pitted up against Lecco Salazar, who was in second position. And we went through this competition, and we met basically in the semis, and we had to, if I wanted to win the title, I was going to have to surpass him. And if he wanted to win the title, he would have to beat me in that heat and then go on to win the event. And I ended up losing that heat to him. And then he went on to win the event and overtaking me as the title winner. And it really crushed me. even though it was like soon this whole thing, but it really crushed me. And I just remember being like crying, crying, you know, like that for some reason thinking that, well, my opportunity had been missed.
Yeah.
And, you know, one thing led to the next. Of course, there was other years after that, but you're right. I mean, it didn't come until 3 years after 2015. And when 2015 came, it wasn't really even necessarily a question, you know, a hard line like, hey, you failed type thing. It was just, let's keep going. And that's certainly one thing that I've learned as I'll speak about my next rock bottom. But it's one thing I learned, certainly in the surfing, is that things take time.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the wins that you get aren't going to be when you want them. They're going to be in the process. And you have to just keep deliberately stepping forward each foot in an intentional way. And with that, eventually, if you keep going and if you don't quit, it will come. And that's just what I approached in the surfing space. And I stuck it in there for a few more years and really committed that final year. And we came away with the title.
Yeah.
But one of the transitioning out of that in 2019 into real estate, it was 2020, 2021 that I really hit rock bottom. The times where I didn't have the money. So I started my own business in real estate, an investment business.
Take a step back. Why real estate and why the investment business? What drew you to that?
Well, it seemed like it was professional surfing in the real world. You would have to be a tactician. You would have to understand the market, the lineup. You'd have to understand your competition.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
You'd have to then work your butt off to get a result. And all of this, it aids to the understanding that I knew. And maybe there's a lot of different industries in this, in the world, or businesses and in the world that echo that same formality, but it's at least the first one that I saw and that I was introduced to in a workshop. And I went, are you kidding me? This exists? You know,
I love the lineup. That's like the houses is a lineup.
Yeah.
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 It's just awesome.
Oh, and you're going to, in order to find the wave,
Yeah.
in order to find the property, you have to do certain things to be able to position yourself to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just been really, really fun. But it spoke to me. It resonated with me of what I knew. And I went, if there's people winning here, I can win, you know? And that's just what I've done with that. But prior to that, because that's really been a new thing for me, winning in this space. It's taken me a couple of years. I moved back from California to Florida and said, hey, I'm going to get this business figured out in 6 months, and I'm going to move back. You know, I had like a going away party for me, you know, with friends out in California. Like, I'll be back in 6 months. I'm going to go get this figured out, and I'm going to be back, you know. 3 years later, I'm still in Florida trying to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
We've gotten better, but there were some times in there where it was really rock bottom, and I didn't have much money to buy food. You know, I was eating a lot of rice and beans, and didn't have enough money, or didn't feel like I had enough money to buy a water heater. So I lived, 3/4 of the year. I think it was last year without a water heater type thing. So like, just like feeling like hitting rock bottom because literally not having any money in my account, overdrawn certain things. And it's just like, man. So, a really humbling place when you literally just don't have funds. Right. And it makes you think that, okay, this is maybe, rock bottom here. But, you just keep pushing, and that's what I did there. And I kept pushing through, and I knew that eventually it would break, and that's what's happened. And now I'm kind of just on the uptrend. So
now, who's been your mentors for real estate?
So Lee Carney is my mentor in this space through Advisors Council. It's a great group. Lee's down in Tampa, a really accomplished investor and a high producer and operator in the space that I operate in, which is in the primarily residential space for investment properties, buying and selling, fixing and flipping, buying and hold. So under his tutelage, I've gotten wonderful understanding. He's my Ian to surf.
Nice.
He's my Yeah, Lee's a fantastic individual. Yeah.
Awesome. So kind of shifting a little bit more here, I call this section Forrest Gump, some of my favorite sections. I've had a lot of opportunities in my life that have come out of nowhere. And I've been very fortunate that I've been able to take advantage of being in the SEAL teams is one. I never even thought about it. I didn't even knew about it. But I'm not going to go into the long story on this because this is your interview. But this is an example of taking an opportunity for an unexpected good fortune, right? So things like that you might want to have or have happen in your life, and how did you take advantage of those unexpected opportunities to kind of ramp it up a notch?
Yes, in terms of the real estate?
Either one, for surfing or real estate, however you want to talk about it. Let's just talk about real estate. That's fine, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, opportunities are a tricky thing because they, depending on what your perception is of things, your whole life could be a missed opportunity. Really.
Right? Yep.
Or it could be a hell of an opportunity every day.
Yeah.
And it's just it's the way that you choose to look at life. And it's because opportunities literally are in front of you every freaking day. And some of those days that I have been most down are the times that I have forgot to be aware of the blessing and the potential opportunity that exists in my immediate environment. And how have I gotten out of those situations? By simply getting up and moving and getting out of those and reminding myself, what do I have going for myself? And what do I want to do? Let's get back into New York. Let's get back into a surfing event. What's the goal here? Let's bring it back down to a singular focus, and let's remind ourselves of these things. What are the opportunities that I have today that I can do? And so it just depends on the mindset that I'm in, and the opportunity and the goal that I'm after. It's like, say in the real estate space, I was rock bottom in 2020, December 2020. And I realized something's got to change here. And what do I have opportunities to make change here? Okay, I need help. Okay, there's a keynote speaker I wanted to be attached with and learn from. This was Lee.
Mm-hmm.
And how can I get close to him? Reach out, figure out a way to do that. He had a mentorship program. Okay, it was more than I could afford, but you know what? I'm gonna risk it all.
Invest in yourself.
I'm gonna invest in myself.
Yeah.
Put things on credit. I'm do whatever I have to do because things have got to change here. Because there's an opportunity there that I haven't looked at before, and that getting pitted in this situation, which kind of do or die, something's got to change. So, opportunities exist anywhere, and it's just sometimes when you get at those situations, at least for myself, where it really forces the hand, it makes you start to think more about those opportunities. So it almost be a fun challenge to put yourself in these situations every day and look at new opportunities, even when you aren't in a comfortable stage. That may be something kind of fun to look at, but opportunities are a blessing, and they can be looked over or they can be sought out each day. It's a choice of the mind.
Think about, either from the surfing or real estate, what are those opportunities that you had where you went, eureka, this is the answer? What, like a couple of items that kind of got you over that hump, right? Because you're banging your head against the wall on something.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that got you, or what one or two things that got you over to the next level?
Yeah, well, in the surfing side, it was my equipment. It was my equipment. It was in 2015, 16. I had been riding with my main sponsor for years, since 2010. And it was a part of our contract that I had to ride production equipment that they would make and that anybody could buy off of the retail store line, board racks. And I would have 1 month that I could work on those designs, those boards, my custom or my model within that production range. I'd have 1 month that I could evolve that design. And it wasn't enough time. I wanted to improve every day. And so much of your success is the equipment that you have underneath your feet. it's a major component to your success and to your riding ability. So it's kind of, in a sense, my hands were tied behind my back for years because of the obligation and the contractual agreement that I had for my sponsorship. And it wasn't until kind of like in the real estate example that I just mentioned, where I hit rock bottom, or where I got so frustrated that something has to change. It was that time in end of 2015, like, I can't do the bottom turn that I want to do, that I know I can do because of this equipment. And so what I did then is I sought out the opportunities that were in front of me that I just wasn't looking at as opportunities. And I found a shaper, a friend of mine, a longtime friend, who's a fantastic surfboard shaper. And I reached out to him and said, hey, look, will you work with me on designing boards for me? I have to have a better board. And we're gonna do it to where they look like my company's boards, and so they won't know. So I went for design to starting to create boards myself with him, working with him on a regular basis, not one time a month, but throughout the year, working on equipment and evolving that. And that was when things started to change. I competed in Fiji at the World Championships in 2016, doing bottom turns, looking back at video and looking at turns that I knew I was not doing the previous year. And then it just hiked up from there. And we evolved each year. And then finally, eventually, my sponsor came around after seeing my competitive success and after me revealing that, hey, these...
I was going to ask if you ever told your boss that
these aren't your boards.
That's awesome.
You know, and
that's awesome.
And so they put a budget in place for that because they saw the value in that.
Yeah.
And then that expanded to the other athletes, of course, because we have to evolve at a quicker pace than what the production line can produce. So yeah, that was a big thing for me.
Real estate?
Yeah, then we just continued. Yeah, and then in real estate.
Yep.
I mean,
what was your eureka moment in there?
Well, my eureka moment in there is actually the mindset. So I signed on to this mastermind group, and I would think in numbers of 5 zeros, maybe 6 zeros. And these guys think in ways of 7 zeros and 10 zeros.
Yeah.
And you know, surfing, I spent my 20s surfing on a goal, not a monetary goal, a goal of competitive success, a world title, or better equipment, you know, progression on a wave. That was like years of my focus, and monetary gain was never one of those. And coming out of that now into, say, real world or post athlete, that's my new title. Like, creating a business that produces income, that pays my employees, that we are excited about, and that we're doing a bang up job with efficiencies and quality. That's like the focus. And there's no better barometer in terms of how well you're doing, I think, than the actual number that the company makes at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And so getting in a room full of guys who thinks in terms of 7 and 10 zeros, open up my mind that, Sean, I don't have to think so small. I can think bigger. By purely being around individuals who are operating at a higher level, I can now start to imagine and believe and not be confined by maybe some preconceived notion that I had in my head that I had to think here, where I can actually think here. That was a eureka moment.
Yeah.
Where my coach said in business, where I wanted to make, say, $250,000 a year, which is a massive goal, and he's like, or no, 200, and he goes, I want you to do 350 this year, and the next year I want you to do $1 million. And like, that was unheard of for me. You know, it was maybe like myself, like, hey, I want you to go up and do that vertical top turn.
Right.
You know, and
got close.
Yeah, you know, but that's it. And last year I surpassed my initial and damn near got to his.
Yeah. And
so it's just the idea that the eureka moment came from me that, man, the mindset, and have belief and have other individuals around you that push you and encourage you to open up your horizon, that you can do more, you can be more.
Yeah, the old saying is you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with.
Yeah.
And I think that applies everywhere. Yeah, that is great. All right, so probably everybody probably knows the answer, but this is the cleansing your soul. What cleanses your soul? For me, it's out there. I'm assuming maybe it's out there. I don't know. But what does Sean do at the end of the day to make sure that he's not only, literally, but metaphorically soul cleansed?
The ocean is a place for me, for sure. Just looking at it right now, hopefully your viewers can see
kidding,
that.
Right?
It's just absolutely stunning. And we had a wonderful morning session. We got out there before the sunrise came up, and we see the mountains and the orange glow, and the Venus and Mars here lit up, and
that was pretty spectacular.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah, unreal.
And the birds flying by above the mountaintop. It just looks like a painting. And there's something about that just it gets you outside yourself.
Yeah.
And it puts you in the moment. And that's what surfing does for me. It really does. And there's a cleansing of the soul in that, where you can be so present in a moment and outside of your head. And so there's two places. There's that for me, the ocean, where it purely puts me out of my head and I can be one with the environment. And two is actually reflecting on that experience, reflecting on that. I find a cleansing of my soul when I can look back at these experiences and think a little, get into the mind, and think about what my takeaways were and what did I learn and how do I rate myself. Am I reaching my personal targets for who I identify to be? How did I do? Do a little self-analysis. And that's a cleansing of the soul for me in a way, because as being a tactician, as being someone who does look at a post to get to, a goal post, it helps me to say, I'm in line. I'm moving in this direction. And to me, it's a cleansing of the soul in that way, because I want to get somewhere. And by that reflection, it helps me to remind myself to that you're going there, or that let's recalibrate.
Yeah.
And let's get there. So
yeah.
Those are my two.
Well said. All right. So since you've got the mindset going, this is a good time to jump into this. What's your top 3 goals for the next 10 years?
That's a big goal. That's a goal to answer that question. I don't think I can answer that question.
You're not leaving until you do. No.
Yeah, right. We'll be here 10 years.
Yeah. Dave, I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
We're gonna be here for a while.
I guess I approach it to maybe not a hard line, but it's more or less every day. I wanna have habits, and I have habits, and to stick with them is my goal. So if I can spend each day retargeting and refocusing quickly, just a self-analysis at the end of the day or in the morning time for the previous day, to look at my markers and see how I'm doing. And if I can say I've done well or I haven't done well, and if I haven't done well, then how do I get better? And let's do better. That's really would be my goal, because I know if I can do that, then I know that I'm going to be happy. I know that I'm going to be proud of myself. And I know that if it's business or relationships, I know that I'm going to be, say successful in them. So I think for me, it's just to be consistent in the work every day and to not cheat so much, and really don't cheat at all. And, if I can stick with that, I don't want to limit almost. I think there's a way that sometimes when you set goals, they can also be limitations to your goals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great point.
And so I just want to give my best in the way that when I do it, I'm proud of myself. And if I can do that over the long haul, well, let's see what happens. I think that's the approach that I take to it. So that's my answer.
Great approach. So then we'll come to the last question that I ask everybody. What are your top 3 scars, and why are they important to you, and how do they apply to your life?
A scar of love. I think that's a big component, where there's a scar that has hurt others, my lack of love for others, my lack of showing love to others, and how I've seen that affect, say, relationships that I've had, lovers that I've had, by purely guarding myself, and not being open to expressing vulnerability. I've experienced that. And I've experienced it in my own family. I've experienced it, with my life to others. And I've also then seen the inverse of that, of people as the example who can show love and to give love, and what that does for the self, for them, their happiness, the joy, the love for themselves as they have love for others, right?
Yep.
And I think that's a big thing that stems from, how can we love? If we don't love ourselves, we actually cannot. So that's a scar, and one that I'm still working on. I'm still working on components of what I love, that I love myself, so that I can actually love others. And there's a handful of examples there. But say the next scar, pain. Pain, I think that there's that great quote that, pain is temporary. I don't know the second phrase of it, but I'll just leave it at pain is temporary. This too shall pass, that whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
And, I've had pain in my life, and I always thought that was the very end of the world in this sense, like, oh, this, and even pain of just shame, like I'm feeling shameful of myself, and oh shoot, people of judgment, this whole thing, this fear of that, and like, it's all temporary, and you're gonna get over it, and people are gonna forget about that situation,
right? And
like, you're gonna learn from this whole thing, and like, it's just, yes, some of those examples, like when I would lose in tournaments, and I would be completely head down, or when I'd take out somebody at Pipeline. I was talking a story the other day about how I nearly killed a guy out of Pipeline because I was kind of, whatever, we were doing battle at Pipeline. I wanted to go this way, he wanted this way, and I took him over the falls, and he got caught in a cave, and he was a Hawaiian royalty, and and I was demoralized. I locked myself in the bedroom for 2 days, 3 days before somebody came, like, dude, you're gonna get out of this. It's the movie outside, like, it'll pass. And so and the third one is probably forgiveness. Forgiveness. That that maybe in some situations that I've held on to situations too long, and it caused me pain because I held on to them for too long. Yes. One image has popped in my mind, and it's kind of a deep one, but about maybe not having that upbringing from a father figure or something like this, like maybe how I wanted, and how I held on to that, and how I can't judge someone for that, and how I didn't accept him for that or them for that, and when I identify and just release and forgive, how much just washing of my soul that I feel, right?
Yeah.
And so holding on to pain and not forgiving sooner is probably a scar that's impacted me in certain ways. So the details I'll leave out, but
no, all good, but all good, brother. Hey, Sean, thank you for sharing today. Before I get final sign off with you though, anything you want to plug, either business-wise, charity-wise, floor is yours, if you, and just to let the audience kind of know of an opportunity they might have to, with you or people you want to promote.
you know, obviously we know why we're here and we know why we're together. We both have an affinity for what we're doing here. This is a partnership with SUP Veterans and Generation, who I work with Lauren Saxby on these with. And we want to do more of these, right?
Yeah.
So to everybody out there, the SUP Veterans, Generation, you find SUP Veterans through Generation, SUP Veterans directly. I want you to you know, reach out, look at their website, and see what you can do to get involved, donate, come be a participant of this amazing event, amazing retreat that we have. And it's, as you guys say, surf, live, you know, healing soul, body, and mind. And that's what I want to promote. That's what I want to say to come and support. And, you know, just thanks for having me on the show. And really fantastic. So thank you, Wes.
Great job, buddy.
Yeah.
So much. Thanks for everything.
Thank you.
All right. Awesome.